We take our first call on today. You're live here on the show. What's on your mind? How are you feeling right now?
What's going on, Steven? And appreciate the shout out, man. You know, I've become a real big fan of the show, man. Like, I've been following you for a little over a year now, and I was like, this guy's consistent. The whole staff up there, TDA is consistent. You, Justin Smith. Then I get on the chat, on the live, and see Waylon and everybody going in, man, and Waylon with the poems, man. It's just like, I love it, man, and I appreciate you taking my call again today, man. But overall, man, this whole situation with the pandemic and players, you know, possibly losing the season, you know, I think ultimately, yes, we're concerned about everyone's health, not just the players, but everyone that's involved, because you got to think it's more than just the players. You have medical staff, you have coaches families that, you know, coaches have to go back home to. You have the staff family, you have ADs. All these different people are tied into these decisions. And I ultimately think it should be left up to them, you know, especially when we talk about the games being played. There are kids who get waivers and stuff signed, you know, that have skin diseases and other things that, you know, go through all these different precautions to be protected on the field that are cleared to play. You know, at any time, those precautions can be, you know, capped or can be, you know, removed because of a simple play, and somebody can be exposed to another disease. So ultimately, we're taking a risk every time we wake up in the morning. These players are taking a risk every time they go out on the field to be in contact with something their body has never been encountered with before, whether it's an injury or whether it's a virus or something. So ultimately, I'm with you. I think the players should have most of the say-so, not most of it, 100% of the say-so, whether they want to play or not. And if you don't have enough, then to productively go forward with competitive football, then that's when you make a general decision on the you know, with the student tie level, you know, guys that are sitting behind the scenes just pushing papers and stuff. But ultimately, the players should have a decision. And
Absolutely,
that's what
Senator.
I got to say about that.
Absolutely, Senator. And what's crazy is me and John Ivory were actually having this conversation before we even got on the show, and John kind of brought an idea to my attention about, you know, because the players want to play, and you brought up the waiver idea, you know, have the players fill out a waiver that should you contract the virus, you know, the school should not be held accountable. Have the players fill out a waiver. I know Najee Harris has recently agreed he would sign a waiver. He's perfectly fine with doing that, and he would not sue the University of Alabama if he was to come in contact and contract the virus. So that's an idea. You know, have the players, you know, sign a waiver for those that do want to play.
And at the end of the day, it's not just the players. Like I keep we have to continuously remind everyone, just because a football player is out on the field doesn't heighten his risk playing football and getting in contact with other people, you know, sweat, whatever it is, exchanging body fluid, whatever it is, that doesn't heighten the risk of them contracting the virus. A person, you know, leaving their home, going to Walmart, walking around in Walmart without a mask on is just as high a risk based off the current studies. We don't know what can happen. And just like Coach Saban said, until we encounter something that causes for another shutdown, you know, that's when we should be making those decisions on that level to counsel all of college football. But to totally wipe out the players to have an opportunity to do that, what they've been working so hard their whole life to push towards, and that's to be an NFL player, you know, health risks are always a concern growing up playing any type of sport or doing anything high intense activity. So the decision should be left up to the players. I'm going to side with that. And it's not that I don't care about people's health and livelihood, but we all can make our own decisions. Nobody's making us do anything. So if they want to decide to do that or use their free will to play football, to continue to be out there with knowing, being educated on the risk, then by all means, let them do it. Let them do it.
Appreciate the phone call, man, the passion behind it. Keep listening to us.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate you.
We're continuing with the phone lines here on a Monday. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on? Kenneth, what's going on?
What's up, Steven?
Doing good, man. Doing good. It's crazy.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm be honest with you. I love my Alabama football. I love it. But if it's going to affect lives of people, I do not need it. Kids are going to come and play football and be in the locker room and get that virus and take it home to their grandma, and their grandmas are going to be sick. Lives will be lost behind this. I just want y'all to understand that. Because you can't tell college kids not to go to bars, not to go to clubs. They're going to go.
They're going to go, true.
So how can, they're going to go. They're going to get the virus. They're going to spread it to their family. So are we choosing football over family now? That's all I need to know. Are we choosing football over family?
So this is what I would propose here. I would propose to have a bubble-like environment for the players, on the campus. So, for example, I would have either the Malmore facility or the sports science building, sports science center, one of those two. Keep players in there, have them controlled in there, so that way you can continue to test those players. They can continue to get the strength treatments, the conditioning, all the treatments they do, but have some players quarantined, have that bubble environment there. And then on top of that, you can make a bubble environment out of Bryant Hall on campus due to the fact that players may only be in class once or twice a week. Once more so than twice, they're going to have to do more so online learning. So you keep players at Bryant Hall where they can have, their living arrangements there, make sure they're getting the food, make sure they're getting their academic studies up, things on that nature. So designating different bubble environment areas on campus to keep an account of where the players are.
See, that I can live with. But I don't be wanting them, because when they're not in the facility, they're going to be around other people. They're going to contract the virus. It's just what it is until we get a vaccine. I just don't want it going back to those parents and grandmas who raised them feeling. That's all I want. I want them to be safe.
I understand that. I understand that.
So if they can bubble it, it's gonna be hard because college kids, man. You're a college kids once, Steven. You know how they is, man.
Oh yeah, but Kenneth, we appreciate the passion, man, and the call, man, and keep listening to us.
All right, now y'all have a good day. Roll Tide.
All right, we got some passionate calls coming in here on a Monday. You're live on In My Own Words. What's on your mind today?
What up, Steven? This is Caleb. I'm in Memphis.
What's going on, Caleb?
I was just giving you a call, giving my 2 cents about the virus. I'm looking at it. I'm seeing all these tweets from these student athletes saying, I don't want to go home. I feel safer in the complex at the university, in the sports science buildings. And to all the people that are saying that, we shouldn't play football, that's going to give the kids the virus. Well, they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. Like people have been saying, they're going to go out. You have just a chance of getting out on the football field as you do in your local grocery store, or, they're going to go out to bars. But at what point do we stop living in this fear and we stand up and we try something? Because at this point, it's looking like the world's not going back to normal. It's looking like we're on our knees and we're just going to sit down and take it. And that's what life's about. You got to take risks. And, I just don't see the point in completely canceling a football season just because of straight fear. The virus is everywhere. It's not like it's just explicitly on a football field. And more than that, I think it should be up to the players. I mean, you've heard that a million times today. You've heard it from sports writers. They don't have a voice, unfortunately, like the NFL does, for example, a commissioner. But it just doesn't make sense to me that we would cancel the football season whenever these kids are going to go out and do what they're going to do anyway. They've worked their tail off, man, all off season. They've grinded. They sweat. They put the work in. They're trying to get out there and prove themselves and do what they came to do that school for, get an education, play football, and maybe have a dream to go to the NFL. That's just my 2 cents. I wonder what your thoughts about that, man, because, everybody, I'm just ready for the world to stop being in fear, be smart, be attentive, but that you can't live in fear. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree with that. And just, my thoughts on the whole situation. You got a lot of young athletes that do not want to go back home. And the reason why they don't want to go back home, and I'm going to dive into more of this in the second part of the conversation here, is you got athletes that come from the roughest of the rough environments. College saves a lot of athletes. Football saves a lot of athletes. For these young men, sometimes it's either I do sports, or if I get sent back home and I know what type of environment I come from, and I know what type of environment that I'm a part of or that produced me, I'm faced with 1 to 2 options. Not every athlete feels this way, but there are a few that feel like I'm stuck with 1 to 2 options. It's either football or I go to a life of crime. It's football or I'm selling drugs. It's football or I'm doing drugs. It's football or I'm robbing folks' houses. I'm breaking into folks' stuff, because you got mamas out there, single mamas, even moms and dads in full households together. They put their children in sports at a young age because those parents know if my child ever gets an idle mind, this could be really bad. This could be really, really, really bad. So I agree with your point there on be smart. You can't live in fear. But I also say this. A lot of these athletes know if I go home, I'm faced with a very rough situation. But, man, we appreciate the call. Keep listening to us.
Yes, sir. Y'all take it easy. Roll Tide.
Absolutely. Continuing with the call segment on a Monday. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
And what's going on, Steven?
Doing good, man. Doing good. And yourself?
Man, it's a lot to unpack, man. I've been listening to what everybody's been saying, and I've been kind of following what's been going on all day long, man. And I'm just gonna keep it 100 with everybody that's listening, and just you can agree or disagree. Don't really matter to me, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's really unfortunate that a lot of the politics and the bureaucracy with all this stuff is kind of impacting and affecting what everything is going on. Because the way I see it is, you got all these, we call them kids, but these is grown men by the letter of the law. You know what I'm saying? 18 and up. And they old enough to go fight in the war, but they're not old enough to make a decision on whether their life is. And I understand people saying that the virus, can spread or whatever, but they didn't figure out all these other measures to have. I seen online where they was having travel with soccer or softball or whatever, and with no issues over the summer. But when it comes to the politics and the schools and everything, now everybody got a problem with the young men that's trying to make a career out of what they're trying to do. And that don't sit right with my soul, Stephen. Like I said, I kind of heard what you was talking to with the last caller and everything, but anytime politics is involved, and I don't really want you to have to go into all that when you answer your question, but I'm just telling you what I feel. You know what I'm saying? Because this whole thing could have been settled a long time ago if the NCAA would have just allowed these schools and the conferences to make the decisions and allow the players to make the decisions a long time ago. You could set the measures up so that people have a safe environment. It's been 7 months from March until August. That's 5 months. You know what I'm saying? And you telling me the NBA and everybody else can figure out, but all these folks that are making millions of dollars in the NCAA and SEC, ACC, all these presidents and athletic directors and coaches, nobody can come together and figure out a solid plan to make sure that these kids are set to be able to play a season. And you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm a little frustrated with how things is going. I kind of feel a little bit better, at least about the SEC, because we might still move forward. But what about all the smaller conferences? Some of these kids, they long shots to make it, and they need a senior year to be able to showcase themselves. And that's the problem that I got, because even Joe Burrow, I seen a story where he put out something saying that he may not even been the number 1 overall pick if there had not been a season last year. So who could be the next Joe Burrow this year? Maybe it's Matt Jones. You know what I'm saying? He ain't have a whole lot going on last year, except for when Tua went down and everybody was able to see him. But he starts this year, and if he has a great year, maybe he's a first-round draft pick. But if he doesn't play this year, maybe he doesn't even get drafted. So I feel for guys like that. I feel for all the guys whose seasons is canceled and they got to try to figure out what to do in the spring. I don't see how that's going to work, but I don't know. I'm just venting. I'm just a little frustrated, and I just wanted to express my thoughts. And I just feel for these young men, and I just feel like if they just take the politics out, you know, you let these guys, they can enlist in the military and risk their lives for the country, but they can't even, you know, risk a very small risk of contracting something and a very small risk of spreading it. If we can all figure out a way to bottle it all up, we got enough smart people that make a lot of money to figure this thing out. And that's all I got to say.
Appreciate the passion and the opinion there on that statement. Call back in the second segment, man, because I want to dive into that a little bit more. But we're gonna continue with the calls here on In My Own Words. You're live on the show. What's going on?
It's Justin from the Sportscast.
Yeah, Justin Riley. What's going on, man?
Man, it's been a long time since we talked. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just it's a fight, man, for college football. We see the players in the SEC, players in the Big 12, ACC with the hashtag We Want to Play movement. There's even an attorney who's got involved, Mr. Jason Schechter, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not pronouncing his name wrong there, but he's even gotten involved with addressing these letters to Commissioner Sankey and the ACC commissioner and Mark Emmert of the NCAA. These players are serious about wanting football.
Absolutely. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's got to be their decision. And I don't think it's anybody else's decision but them. I don't think that powers that be outside them can tell them, hey, this is what you're supposed to do with your life. But right now, society, the main problem in society right now is everybody is operating out of panic and fear, and they're basing their decisions off of what is trending rather than actually using thought and logic behind it. And I think that's kind of what's driving everybody's paranoia and anger when it comes to college football. Like a caller said previously, just because they're on the football field, that doesn't automatically give them COVID or means that they're going to pass away because of playing the sport.
Absolutely, and I go back to what Dr. Matt Ray mentioned. I mean, Dr. Ray on Twitter a couple of days ago was infuriated by this is what he does. Dr. Matt Ray has been in performance science, since 2001. He launched a company that specializes in things like this, and he's just adamant about, can people just trust the team doctors and what they're doing to make sure that these players are staying safe, that they are being tested. We have them in a situation where they are at the least likely to contract the virus because we're keeping a head count, or we're keeping our eyes on those guys.
Oh, exactly. See, you mentioned a very key point. They're in a protected environment full of professionals that know what they're doing. And some people may be using the argument that, well, all these players return to campus here, whether it's Clemson, Alabama, LSU, name it, and 30 or more players contracted the virus. Well, yeah, because they were all over God's green earth doing whatever away from the university. Now they're in a protected environment where things are being monitored, things are being watched, they're being protected.
And here's the big thing. Going back to something that Coach Saban mentioned in his interview with ESPN, ever since 4th of July weekend, there's only been a 2% positivity rate in terms of COVID virus testing where the players are concerned. So the number at one point in time that had people concerned about, well, today we had 3 people test positive, now 5 people, now it's up to like 13 people. But ever since the 4th of July, Saban has said, look, we've gotten a handle on this thing to where it's now less than 5% of our players testing positive.
Right, absolutely. But people still want to base what their decisions are on fear and panic rather than looking at logic. And logic is being put in front of us. It's just nobody wants to acknowledge it. And one thing I want to talk about, you mentioned before I hadn't got a chance to call, was you've got these players who are scared to go back to their environments that they are trying to escape. And I think putting them in a position to where there away from the accountability, the protection, and the great atmosphere of school and send them back to these places that they want to escape and need to escape, I just don't think that that's a good idea.
Absolutely, Justin. But man, we appreciate the phone call, your thoughts, your ideas of what you had to say, man. Hey, continue to keep listening to us.
Absolutely, man. Roll Tide.
Appreciate that call there from Justin Riley. We continue on the phone lines. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
Hey, this is Eric from Dallas, Georgia.
All right, Georgia in the house. What's going on, man?
Hey, nothing much, man. I just wanted to speak on a couple of things. I'm hearing a lot of callers, and like you said, it's going back and forth. I guess one of my main things is that at the end of the day, a lot of players, a lot of fans don't want to talk about it, but it's about the money. If college, I want you to put this in perspective. If the college football season is canceled, I want to give you a number. That's about $4 billion worth of revenue, ticket sales, all of that good stuff. That's gone down the drain, right? And when you look at your first and second quarters of this year, it's all been lost. So now we need the college football season to happen, right? So, I understand that these players, they want to play, and now all of a sudden now the universities and the fans, we're gonna listen to the players because they want to play. Well, what happened to the players when they wanted to get paid? How much money has the NCAA made off of players for how many years? And they want to get paid, right? We're not listening to them when it comes to that, but when it comes to playing football, we're A-okay with that, right? And then the next point is let's not let the players go back home. Let's keep them in a bubble. Have them going to school. Don't let them go back to these places that of crime and maybe getting killed. How about they don't play football, but they're still able to stay in the bubble, still stay safe? I think sometimes, we want football to happen because guess what? We don't want to think about all of this stuff that's happening, that's coming into light, all the racial injustices and the police brutality, like you said before, that's going on in our communities and that's been going on. So we look to football as a distraction. We all know that's what it is, okay? It's a distraction. So if money is going to be missed out, because I'm telling you, it's about $4 billion that's going to be missed out if college football is canceled. You don't think these universities want these players to play? Of course they want them to play. They need that revenue. So if we're slow to pay them, then why are we so quick to have them play then? I'll hang up and listen to you talk about that, Steven. Hey, always good to listen to you, man. Thank you. Roll Tide, brother.
Appreciate the thoughts there from Eric out of Dallas, Georgia. That's a good point because the players have been wanting to get paid for a long time. They've wanted to get paid for a long time. They've wanted a stipend. They've wanted to have their work appreciated. And I know for a lot of people, it's with their own scholarship, but the scholarship doesn't cover everything. The scholarship does not fulfill everything. And some players don't even have a full scholarship. They have what's called a renewable scholarship, which means if they're not performing up to the way that the coaches or people want them to perform, then that renewable scholarship is taken away from them. So I get exactly where Eric is coming from with that statement. But we continue the phone calls here in the queue. You're live here on In My Own Words on a Monday. What's going on?
What's up, Steven? This is Sean from Huntsville.
What's going on, Sean?
Nothing much, man. I want to offer my quick perspective real quick, man. I offer my perspective from a former college athlete myself right here at HCBU, Alabama A&M University, right here in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm the very kid you described. That was me coming from those kind of areas. I was fortunate enough to have a great senior year and garner some interest from Tuskegee, Alabama A&M, and Jacksonville State. Picked A&M because my mother went there. So I do know what you mean, man. The guy you speaking of is me. I'm fortunate enough to be able to teach this game I learned to kids now. But as far as what the last caller called, my perspective on that is he's 1,000% correct, man. And for those of you that don't really know what it is to play college football at any level, it's one thing that's always common, no matter if it's Division I, Division I AA. The scholarship helps you, especially with your education. It pays for your books. It does all these great things. But as an 18 to 22-year-old kid, you really don't see the necessities in that until you graduate. When you come from a home like I came from, where your mom working 2 jobs and couldn't afford but to send you the $20 a week, at some point in time at 11, 12 o'clock at night, you get hungry, you get tired of asking your teammates, can I borrow a pack of oodles and noodles? You know, you get embarrassed to ask them because they are going out having a good time. You have nothing but lint in your pocket. But you see your jersey hanging in the bookstore when you walk onto the campus. Everybody buying that jersey. The bookstore, Maitre D is making $400 or $500 every couple of hours off that jersey, and you got 12 cents in your pocket. It's a horrible feeling. No money to take your girlfriend out, no money. And when you come from these families, this is the reality of it. That's why you see a lot of these people leave school as juniors. I know people that's well off and blessed enough to have nice fat bank accounts when they come to college don't understand what I'm saying, but it's a large amount of players that were like me. We broke together, you know what I mean? But we go out here in the stadium and make y'all $2 or $3 million every Saturday, and we have nothing. I mean, you say, well, you're getting your education, and you're right. I won't front on that. You know, I'm getting paid now because of my education, but that education, those benefits don't kick in for about 3.5 years. And I'll tell this story real quick because the only reason I'll use names because I heard Jay Barker used it. David Palmer was from Birmingham, Alabama. David Palmer, number 2, Papa Cherry. That was him, straight from J.O. High School. Jay Barker said on holidays, David Palmer wouldn't even want to go home because there was no food in the house. He'd rather stay on campus. There was a large amount of our teammates. I know people on that team right now that come from those same environments. And you have people like Greg McElroy who said, well, no, the education is this, and you should never get paid, you know, this, that, and the third. Greg McElroy's father was an employee, executive for the Dallas Cowboys, played at South Lake Carroll, came from a very, very, very fortunate background. So people like that will never understand, man. And I'll end with this. We're not saying give us $20,000 a month. What the athlete is saying is, break me off a stipend, man. Give me $1,200 a semester, $1,300 a semester off the scholarship. The scholarship has not changed since I played in the mid-'90s, bro, to late '90s. The scholarship is the exact same, but the cost of living increases as far as paying for books and things of that nature. The NCAA is making an absolute killing on these kids, and a lot of these kids have. I'm telling you guys, this is not a lie. What I'm telling you, a lot of these kids are struggling. That's why they're so quick to leave school so fast. A lot of these kids don't even want to go pro, but they feel like they have to. They see their mom struggling. They see their teammates doing well, buying pairs of shoes, this, that, and the third. And I'm sitting up here with $12 in my pocket, but I'm making you a couple of million every Saturday, and I can't even afford a bowl of chili. It's not fair, brothers. It's not fair. Roll Tide to you, Steven. And as always, I hang up and listen, and we'll continue to support.
Good point there from Sean. Good call there from Sean. And it's like I mentioned, you know, that stipend is all the players want. That stipend's it, whether it's $1,200, $1,300, whatever the case may be. Have a stipend for these players. And I've always been in support of that because, like I mentioned, I've had the fortunates to cover this program since 2009, and some of the players that have come through this program, I have made friendships with these guys, and a lot of them did not have, you know, full scholarships. A lot of them had renewable scholarships, and even the ones that had that full scholarship still was not enough. I went to high school with players that made it big and playing, you know, either college, that made it big and playing either college football or college basketball, and they would come back home to Marion like this scholarship just ain't cutting it. Like, what am I going to do? So I agree with that point that Sean put in. Appreciate Sean and also Eric from Dallas, Georgia for waiting patiently as we got to their call. We got another call here in the queue, and we thank this caller for waiting patiently. You're live on the show. What's going on?
What's going on, Steven? I talked to you a little bit earlier. Caleb again from Memphis, Tennessee. I heard you say something on your show that kind of resonated with me a little bit about, you know, the kids that you're essentially breaking, you know, family generational curses by being the first one to get to that next level, being the first one to make something of yourself. And, you know, Joe Burrow was a prime example of that. Nobody was going to draft that man number 1 overall. I mean, he came into LSU, sure, he was a 3-4 star, whatever he may be. But if he didn't have that season, he said it himself on his Twitter. He said he's going to be looking for a job right now. That man could be working at Taco Bell for all we know. He's the number 1 overall, making millions of dollars, playing for Cincinnati. So think about, I don't think the big suits are realizing what all it actually is going to affect if this season does not happen in terms of eligibility. That's a whole nother demon to tackle. I mean, what about all the seniors? You know, Dylan Moses, Smitty. What are they going to do? What about the juniors? Are they going to bail in 2021 and go straight to the draft? I mean, you got so many unknowns, that so many questions that if this gets canceled, you just don't have the answers for. And for all we know, I mean, there's a kid out there who could be a baller, and he could go number 1. He could come from a poor community, poor family, make a name for himself. But if this season gets canceled, that's not going to happen. And Dylan Moses, think about Dylan, man. Think about, you know his attitude, his personality. He's been grinding, been rehabbing, doing all he could for the past 2 years. That's crushing him, man. So the eligibility thing is another huge topic to me. I don't understand how they're going to work that out, but it's devastating.
I know right now the one thing that the players are pushing for, especially in the law documents that they have for for Commissioner Sankey, the commissioner of the ACC, and also the NCAA, the players want 2 things. Number 1, they want a COVID waiver. So what this means is, if there comes a situation where players may miss a few games because they contracted the virus, or if it's a situation where you have to postpone the season or start the season and stop middle of the way through, what the COVID waiver does is it allows the 2020 to 2021 athletic year, because of the unprecedented time that we're in, that year will not count against the eligibility. That year will not take from the eligibility of the players. So they want that COVID waiver. The second thing the players are asking for is the immediate implementation of the transfer rule. And that's if there's a situation where, a school in a respective conference decides, hey, we're going to cancel the season. We're not going to play football, especially if this particular student athlete is a year before graduation, then that athlete has the opportunity to transfer elsewhere that's playing football and immediately play. So that's the 2 things that these players want. But, man, we appreciate the call. Keep listening to us.
Yes, sir. Y'all stay safe and stay positive, man. I love what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel. To continue to get the best in Alabama football content, subscribe here and turn on your notifications to stay connected with the hottest shows covering your Crimson Tide.